And welcome to Soarin for California. My name is Patrick and I'll be your chief flight attendant today.
Pull the lever, Kronk.
Even with the most recent updates happening at Epcot, Soarin' remains a favourite for park goers and Disney fans alike.
At Epcot, guests can find one of Disney's most innovative attractions. It's called Soarin'.
The idea of a hand gliding simulator originated back in 1996 and was going to be named Ultra Flight, and this name can still be seen on the tower consoles in the Californian version of the ride. As excited as the Imagineers were about the idea, the attraction was put on hold when they couldn't figure out a ride system that would realistically simulate the sensation of flying. The whole project was shelved until Disney Imagineer Mark Sumner eventually took over the project.
What I thought was a relatively simple mechanism, so I decided maybe I would make a little model. And then I remembered I had an old erector set. After about 2 hours, I came up with a little model that I could crank in place of an electric motor, and I could show how there could be a row of seats on the ground level and how they could soar back up into a screen.
As unique and popular as this ride is, it's not the original ride of its kind. Soarin' over California, located at Disney's California Adventure Park, opened in 2001 as an opening day attraction.
But I don't think we're through dreaming of setting records. We'll never be through. I've learned that if you can dream it, you can do it. One can only wonder how many other aviation dreams will be launched with this Soarin' over California attraction.
Our guests were demanding that we bring Soarin' to Epcot.
Soarin' opened in Epcot on the 5th of May 2005 with a special dedication featuring the ride's pre-show host Patrick Warburton.
If you've ever dreamed of what it might feel like to have wings and to fly like a bird, you're about to find out. Soarin' is unlike any attraction you've ever experienced. And not so much a thrill ride, but an ecstatic experience as close as you're likely to come to sprouting feathers.
Located in the Land Pavilion, which was greatly in need of an update at the time, the attraction was originally considered for a few different locations throughout World Showcase. You can actually hear the cast members pay tribute to its opening date when they welcome you aboard Flight 5505 in their pre-show spiel. The Soarin' attraction took up a massive 60,000 square feet of space when first built, which included the 2 theatres, loading bays, queue areas, and related cast member areas. The ride's queue line took over the area previously home to Food Rocks. The attraction building is actually located outside of the Land Pavilion and in its own building. The giant blue structure can be seen throughout World Showcase and is linked to the Land Pavilion by a long tunnel housing the queue line. Not only is the building that houses Soarin' huge, the ride's track itself is £1 million of solid steel. The ride seats 87 people across 3 rows in a wing-like canopy to give the illusion of a hang glider. Once all guests are seated, the ride system lifts them 40 feet into the air facing a huge 80-foot concave projection screen.
Soarin' to tower. We are ready for takeoff.
The ride is a sensory overload with the visuals, music, movement and scents working together to give the riders the feeling of flying over the scene below. The original scents of orange blossom, pine trees and ocean breeze were synced with the visuals and one of the most memorable aspects of the attraction. The design of the mesh seats were to allow the wind machine to blow a cool breeze over the guests, again to add to the sensory experience. The film to be shown during the ride, which takes place over beautiful landmarks in California, also had a rough start. The footage was more difficult to obtain than expected, and took nearly 2 years to film the 4 minutes and 51 seconds of footage. The scenes in Yosemite National Park, Monterey and Point Lobos took a full year just to secure permission for filming, as the airspace over national parks is protected. Previously to the Soarin' crew, no helicopter had flown over the area in Yosemite National Park since the mid-1900s. Other locations featured were Lake Tahoe, Palm Springs, Malibu, and an ending at Disneyland itself. Some of the scenes did have real people interacting with the landscape who had to stay on set for each flyover until the perfect shot was captured. However, some were added in post-production, such as the hang gliders over the falls in Yosemite National Park. The final nighttime scene through LA always looks slightly out of place, and for good reason. The final shot used was actually a test run, however the setup took so much time that the crew were no longer allowed to film in the airspace, and the test shot was sped up to fit the pace of the rest of the film. The film was shot with the IMAX projection system at 48 frames per second in high definition, typically twice the speed of a normal motion picture film. My favourite part and one of the most memorable is the soundtrack, which was created by renowned film and television composer Jerry Goldsmith, who was also responsible for Mulan. The attraction though was closed for refurbishment on January 4th, 2016. Not only was the attraction to feature a brand new film, Soarin' Over the World, but a new theatre was also added during this update, taking the total from 2 theatres to 3, which allowed roughly an extra 500 guests per hour to ride.
Nice work, pal.
The attraction reopened on May 27th for the original film's final run before the new film premiered. Whereas the original ride was flying over California, the new updated one had guests soaring over the world's landmarks spanning across 6 different continents. The new locations visited were Switzerland, Greenland, Australia, Germany, Tanzania, China, Egypt, India, the USA, Fiji, Argentina, and France. This new film debuted on the 17th of June 2016, and many people say it is much more fitting to the international theme of Epcot and the World Showcase. The old scents were also replaced with new scents of rose blossom, grass, and sea breeze. Soarin' has been known to get some really long lines, especially before the addition of the 3rd theatre. The cast members at Soarin' are often heavily monitored when working the guest loading and unloading positions. For such a popular attraction, Soarin' has a pretty low turnover of guests compared to say an Omnimover attraction such as Haunted Mansion, which can continuously load and unload guests for an efficient wait time. Although there are quite a lot of safety checks needed for this ride, there is an audio cue in the background music when loading guests, where it lulls to let cast members know that they need to have the ride cleared and dispatched as soon as possible. While the ride is in motion, only 1 cast member is allowed in the theatre. They are locked behind a gate to the side of the screen in a position called Tower. Most attractions have this position and it is where the ride is operated from. For the duration of the ride, the tower operator has a series of cameras to watch which are pointed at the audience on the ride. Their job is to ensure everyone is remaining seated to ensure the safety of all guests. There have even been some incidents where guests have managed to get out of their seats just before the ride ascends into the air, or even during the show while it is suspended 40 feet above the ground. Luckily, due to this cast member, no serious injuries though have ever been recorded on the ride. Cast members also would occasionally be able to create a magical moment for guests when the lines were low during the original film. This is where they would randomly select a family from outside the attraction and take them backstage to the VIP waiting area, which was usually set aside for celebrities, or I guess VIPs, hence the name. The cast member would ride with the family in the front row, and in the golf course scene where a ball flies at the camera giving the illusion it's coming straight towards you, the cast member would pull out a golf ball from their pocket and catch it and hand it to the guests as a souvenir.
When the doors to your flight open, please take a seat and store all carry-on items in the underseat compartment. This includes cameras, purses, hats, and of course, these little beauties.
Both versions of Soarin' have been extremely popular for Epcot. The attraction seems to have a love it or a meh reaction from most people who ride it. I personally also missed the original film and especially the orange scent and preferred the less CGI look and feel of the attraction before the update, but I know many people who love the new version and think it is much more fitting for Epcot. Soarin' may not mesh too well with the Land Pavilion's original ideas, but it's clear that the original concept for specific themes inside each pavilion doesn't even really exist anymore. I expect Soarin' will be part of the pavilion for quite some time and will even outlast the concept the pavilion was originally created for. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Expedition Epcot. Our trip through the land though is not yet complete, so be sure to join us again for our next stop on the expedition. Let us know your thoughts on Soarin' in the comments below, and we will see you next time.
Hello and welcome to Soarin'. My name is Patrick and I'll be your chief flight attendant today.